Welcome back to the South Asian Impact Project, the show where we spotlight South Asians shaping the Washington, D.C. region through service, leadership, and community building. I'm your host, Vidhi Bhansali. Today's episode is extra special because my guest isn't just a leader. He's an old friend from college and someone whose journey took a turn none of us expected. I'm talking about Sandeep Mehta, entrepreneur, founder of Resolve IT Consulting, and now president of the Jain Society of Metro Washington. Sandeep played an instrumental role in the completion of one of the most extraordinary grassroots projects in the DC Washington metropolitan area. A Jain temple built with Makrana marble carved in Rajasthan, India, shipped in 40 containers and assembled layer by layer like a giant spiritual Lego set. And here's why the story matters, even if you're not a follower of Jainism. This project is a blueprint for anyone who has ever dreamed of building something meaningful for their community. Because this temple was built entirely by volunteers through COVID shutdowns, skyrocketing construction costs, shipping delays, and even geopolitical disruptions that literally blocked shipping lanes. It's a masterclass in perseverance, planning, and people power. In this episode, we unpack the precision, the hurdles, and the heart behind this project, and what it takes to turn a community's dream into a landmark. Join us for the full story. Sandeep Mehta, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Vidhi. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, it is. This is very special because Sandeep, you and I, we go back a long way. We went to college together and our families have been close friends since then. And it's funny, the last time I connected with you, you were just starting off your own entrepreneurial venture, which is starting your own IT firm. And the next thing I hear 3 years later is you've built a temple. So that was very interesting. And that's what prompted me. It's like, I have to dig into this and what's the story here? So can't wait to get into it. But maybe before we get started, can you tell our listeners a little bit about your journey to the US, your career path, your education path, and just what got you to the point of maybe starting your IT career?
I was just 18 when I had migrated to the US in the late 90s with my family. And it was a fresh start for us. I left behind, like a lot of us, left behind friends, family, and a very known way of life to be here, the promise of a bright land of opportunity. So here I am. That's when I got to meet you, your brother, your family, all of us who have been very close for all these years. And we went to college together, went to University of Maryland, College Park, go Terps.
Yes.
And the journey has been very, very rewarding. I wanted to, learn more about large enterprise computers and how they work together from my early career. And that's what really intrigued me. And over the course of my career, I went from being trained as a computer programmer, computer engineer, to becoming more of a consultant, turned towards IT consulting services, working for technology consulting before I decided to take that same path for myself. Yeah, it's the entrepreneurship has always been something that has, intrigued me from the early on. During our college days in University of Maryland, you may recall I was involved in the campus entrepreneurship program heavily. We did a couple of startup projects and it was very exciting and at the same time nerve-wracking. So it has been something that I've always strived for, something that I've always wanted to pursue one way or another. And the promise of entrepreneurship for me really was not only you're charting your own path, but you're also empowering others. So with that said, early on in my career, after being an employee for technology consulting companies, I decided to pursue my own federal career, a federal IT consulting services path. Started off knowing very little. Now that I can see in the rear view, in terms of, starting my own venture to provide, services, specifically in the area that we have expertise in, which are infrastructure services, cloud security now, cybersecurity services, and we specialize in remote access, virtual desktops, and things that provide mobility solutions. That's been my journey for the last nearly 2 decades now. And as the founder and CEO of Resolve IT Consulting, we provide services in the DC Metro to several federal civilian agencies at this time.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing that background. And Sandeep, given our very friendly, healthy academic rivalry that we had in college, this is very hard for me to admit, but I have always been very inspired by your brilliance and just your tenacity to go above and beyond, right? Like while all of us were so busy with the coursework and just surviving in college, you, like you rightly said, were involved in all these entrepreneurial clubs. And so I've seen that from the very beginning. So no surprise in how that's shaped your career, but just truly impressive in what you put together, with Resolve IT. And you've told us about what you do with Resolve IT, but maybe for those who might be considering a similar path, especially in the DC area, what are maybe some lessons learned or pieces of advice you have for those folks?
Yeah, sure. From my journey and observing the journey of many that I have come in contact with and seeing various levels of success, some overnight explosion of opportunities and companies going from a single solopreneur to becoming a 100, 200, 400 people company. I've seen rapid growth. To that end, I would say that the first key to being successful in this industry, just as any other industry would tell you, is really to get yourself educated about learning the ropes. Because for government contracting specifically, the nuances are very different than what you would normally encounter in commercial space. There's a lot of terminology. There's a lot of U.S. government specific procurement rules and regulations. And there's a whole different product and sales cycle, including different methods to capture the business. We are very fortunate that the government puts out a ton of resources, free of cost, most of them, to really provide training and learning the ropes. So you don't have to do it alone. There are a lot of community forums and other organizations, some that charge nominal fee. But the key, again, to my what I'm saying here is education, training, and networking. I mean, those three are the key cornerstones in terms of making sure you're ready and you understand what you're getting into. Because it's not about just delivering a small project. If you're looking to grow yourself and have a longer term footprint, it really behooves you to understand how the business is structured, how the customer with its diverse needs buys things, who they buy from, etc. To that end, there are many resources available out there, but one that I would certainly would like to mention here is the Apex accelerators. These are small business administration provided resources specifically built up to provide training from the ground up for everything from how to write your own business plan to complex topics like navigating teaming agreements or some legal matters or delivery and operations. And again, very helpful. You reach out to them, you sign up with them. They will, assign a mentor to your particular case, and they literally walk you through. It's really a great way to understand from somebody who's been in that industry.
Got it. Very helpful. And I see you mentioned Apex accelerators. We'll be sure to link that in the show notes. So thank you for sharing that resource. So Sandeep, now maybe let's dive into how you got to where you are with this latest initiative that you've undertaken. Tell us about how you got involved with the Jain community of Washington, D.C.
I've always been a resident of the DMV area, been always a Maryland resident. In the early part of my career and through much of my early 20s, even early 30s, I wasn't a avid temple goer or a highly religious oriented person, which I still would not consider myself to be from a practicing perspective. From a spirituality perspective, that's how I really attach to the beliefs of Jainism. And I think that the key light bulb moment or for me was my wife, who is the backbone of my sport. She was very clear in her path about how she wanted to raise the kids, the values that she wanted to make sure is instilled from them early on, and so on. So my kids have been enrolled in the Sunday school that the Jain Society of Metro Washington conducts every 2 weeks. And big shout out and thank you to the insurmountable amount of effort and hours that a lot of volunteers put in to continue that tradition. So for me, the turning point moment really was seeing my kids go to Pachala or Sunday school, and I wasn't that actively involved, and it dawned upon me that you can't be a backseat driver here, and I have to lead the way. I got involved in Jain Society just by initially by just being more present at the community level. And soon, very, very soon, I found, a lot of friends who are now my extended family. And it was a very purposeful experience, both in the sense that you connected to so many other families and like-minded people, giving you a very rich social fabric, but at the same time, very enriching because you got a sense of giving back to the community you so much are thankful for. So over the years, I took volunteer positions to start actively helping in the Jain Society more and more, and it was just a passion, and it turned very meaningful to me. That yes, you run your corporate and your professional pursuits all day long, but at the end of the day, doing something that doesn't have a financial objective but has a giving back angle, and it also enriches personally for me, enriched me so much spiritually. Was really really the multifold reward I can't put in words. But in my journey over that, I continued taking more and more active participation, doing more diverse roles, supporting the society, whether it is supporting for initially for communications and marketing, then eventually to do technology support for the society again. And during the course, we were fortunate that right here in Washington, we have been working towards an initiative to build a temple that many of my respectable senior members and former members have put their blood and sweat in for years and years, decades, if I may say. Um, 2010 is when the land was purchased, the new temple land that is now officially inaugurated as of last year in Beltsville, Maryland. So it's been a 15-year journey. But anyone that visits the temple can feel the energy of not just the aura of the God and the presence of the divine, but also the huge amount of love and energy that has gone into building this temple. So for me, that's been my journey with the Jain Society. And starting this January, I've been fortunate to lead the Temple Society for the next couple of years. And I'm very fortunate to serve in that role. I'm looking forward to really bringing the community together and growing the temple as a greater and more engaged place for members to come together of all ages, of all different initiatives. And as I've stepped into this role, realizing this is a monumental task, but it brings so much reward, just personally, just gratifying experience in terms of what you're able to give back.
Love it. And to be precise, by leading the organization, what Sandeep means is that he's the president of the Jain Society of Metro Washington. So congratulations on that, Sandeep. I think that's well deserved, and I can see you're doing full justice to that role. You also touched on so many elements, right? Like modeling for your children, what you want them to be, or what you want them to follow. I think is critical. So glad you took that path. And I do also want to talk about this monumental task, pun intended, because it is literally a monument that we've stood up, or that you and your team have stood up in the DC area. So we'll get into that as well. So maybe diving into that, Sandeep, before we actually talk about the building of this temple, or the Jain Center, as you call it, help us understand what is so unique or different about a Jain temple structure, which sort of fed into the requirements of what the task you had at hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know I won't be able to do justice to the very intricate details, but keeping it at a high level for the viewers. Every temple, particularly Hindu temples, and I'm sure every religious structure has guidelines and specific details of where the entry should be, or where what the structure should look like, where the shrine should be, what the temple, the praying area should be, and so on. And we're no different to that. The Jain temples have a very established and very detailed set of rules and guidelines that for a properly structured Jain temple must be followed. Lots of intricate details about how high the idol should be, where should they be placed, how many doors and windows, which directions they should be, what should the entrance look like, and go on and on. What side of the direction the temple should be facing, and a variety of different things goes back into the deep-rooted values from the Indian culture and the Jainism culture about Vastu Shastra and many other surrounding, Vedic structures and other books and other scriptures. So much so that, there's a whole class of architects in India called Sompuras who specialize in temple building. That's what they do. And these are individuals who have experience building how high the top shikhar should be, how many shikhars, depending on the design you choose. So really the challenge is, make sure that we're implementing these fine details in the project that we have, the construction projects we have at hand here in the US, while trying to make sure that we're coordinating the minor details, the finest details about, hey, are we off by, and I'm not even joking when I say that, are we off by 1 centimeter? Or are we off by, 2 inches here or whatever? Just because when we are building this temple with so much adherence to the guidelines, we want to make, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. And we wanted to make sure everything is done pitch perfect. Along the side, we are beyond thankful to the guidance that we received from our spiritual leaders in Maharaj Sahib in India, who were instrumental in providing us the minutest detail. Anytime we had a question, or if we hit an obstacle, or if things were coming to a standstill, and how do we navigate from there? But yeah, I mean, and I warmly invite and highly encourage everybody to come visit the temple if you're in the Washington area or visiting. And as you walk through the facility and you walk through the intricate marble details, you will realize, once you see that, of how different the structure feels and why certain things are placed the way they are placed, because of certain guidelines, certain energy requirements, certain maintenance of the idols. And in the Jain philosophy, there are 24 Tirthankars, and the last Tirthankar being Lord Mahavir, who is more famously known, 24th Tirthankar. But we worship all 24 Tirthankars. And so that's the structure in terms of, variety of different elements that I have to go through. And last but not the least, the temple we have built is built with very close guidelines to how a temple would be built in India. The goal being that it'll be an icon in itself in the Washington area. And we had the tagline, we have a White House away from a White House, only 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
being the high level there.
First of all, kudos to your team for taking these very strict and intricate and complex Indian guidelines and marrying that with, Maryland guidelines. And so, like you're saying, the amount of precision that needed, I can only imagine how many complexities and hurdles that possibly added. And we'll get to that. But, from me visiting the temple as well, I recognize, and from visiting other Jain temples in India, I have to say you guys have done a phenomenal job in recreating that same aura and the awe you feel when you walk into a Jain temple, like the intricate marble carvings that you mentioned, the mandalas, the circular carvings on the ceiling, as well as just the energy you feel, right? There's like this very intentional, deep silence, almost like a meditative calm that comes over you as you walk into the temple. So congratulations on building that. And maybe, Sandeep, can you give us a sense of what it took, like the scale of the construction and the effort that went into creating this temple?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we started off this project with wanting to have the absolute best in every category that we wanted to have. So starting off with the marble that was used to build the temple, has been procured from the region in Rajasthan in India, known as Makrana. That is the number one spot for the whitest marble across the globe. Very high in demand. And the way this project proceeded was, we would get all the architectural drawings for every single aspect of the temple, the walls, the roof, the balconies, etc. And then the carving company, the marble company in India that we had contracted, would mine the stone, carve the stone, prepare them meticulously on those designs, down to the specifications, down to the how many wide, how much depth, and all those details. And then starts the arduous process of getting it here, because the way the construction is structured is it's a layered structure from ground up to the ceiling. So there's layers going from 1 through 15 that have to be assembled in a certain order to make sure that they are stacked up properly. And that also means that, logistically speaking, we have to construct and ship those in the proper order. If you ship layer number 8 before layer number 6 arrives, then that's going to sit there and potentially get damaged if it's not assembled in time, etc. So the scheduling process was an intense and often challenging process. And as you can imagine, time zone differences, communication challenges, along the way, quite frankly, dealing with fundraising challenges as well, because this is a large project. All of that's to say that the journey of the marble started from India, which we shipped through seaports and come over at one of the eastern seaboard ports, preferably Baltimore. Or in some cases, we had to go to New York because of certain incidents. And then they would be transported back to our site here, and then a local contractor would assemble them piece by piece, layer by layer, to get it to that level. All in all, we had more than 40 containers of marble shipped from India.
Wow.
And we were very fortunate that we were able to really minimize any redos or any damages that are expected in an endeavor of this size. Now, that being said, just to give you an idea of the scale, the main idol that we have for our main god in the temple, the marble statue is about 41 inches in height, and that alone is a little bit more than 700 kilos in weight.
Amazing. Wow.
So marble is deceptively heavy. And in terms of man hours to build this, I mean, I can't even estimate, but probably 10,000 hours over the course of 10 years, 15 years, maybe more. I'm just ballparking, but it was a huge effort done by, endless effort done by a lot of members of the community, for which we are very thankful. I am only representing and saying this here, but I'm sitting on the shoulders of a lot of other leaders who have got us here. And the construction really started in 2019, because we had a lot of other things to be done beforehand, and some of them were fundraising driven. So it took time to develop the land, to get permits, to get, through clearing of the land. And it just got us to that point where in 2019, end of 2019, we started the construction. And of course, next thing we hit was COVID, which started right in 2020. And it got a very interesting set of hurdles for us from a temple construction standpoint. We were delayed a little bit, to say the least, but we were still able to make progress during that time as much as we could. But after the pandemic, the cost of everything, particularly construction elements, as many of you will know, skyrocketed. And labor, construction, material, we had a lot of geopolitical challenges also with the current world scenarios. We were competing with the scarcity of marble in India because of the ongoing temple projects in India, which everybody's familiar with. Dealing with, I'm just reminiscing a few of these things where there were shipping lane challenges because the port of the Suez Canal was impacted because of geopolitical issues in that part of the country, of the world rather. But again, at the end of the day, we persisted, and the marble's here. We went through a full set of construction permits, whether it is going through the county, going through the state requirements, to make sure we are building something that's sustainable and can be carried forward by the next generation. So we're giving them something that is solidly built on a firm foundation and so on.
My goodness, it sounds like it should be a case study in perseverance and grit of just how you pull that together with all those external factors and geopolitical factors. Is mind-boggling. So in addition to, of course, all these complexities, as a community, there were a lot of people involved. How do you go about organizing yourself to pull such a thing together from a people perspective, a structure, and so on?
That's a great question. And I think a key point I'd like to make is the Jain Society is a completely volunteer-run organization. Not a single person gets paid $1. All the volunteers that help are doing so, out of their own time. But more importantly, we have a construction team, and not everybody is necessarily a construction person there. So we are coming together. We have folks that are, that specialize in construction, so we pull them in. But again, time and availability matters. So, but fortunately, we've had people with very good planning vision and the way we structured, and we had a full-blown temple committee led by one of our revered members. And, the structure was formed that there will be a dedicated team of volunteers that will focus on the temple construction. And a temple itself, it all matters underneath that, whether it is construction being the big and heavy, but also legal aspects or procurement aspects, finance aspects, public relations, communications, anything you can think that you would run as a business was essentially part of how this was structured. And then, of course, things like, okay, once the temple is built, how are we going to operate this? How are we going to run the policies for a variety of things? And again, this was done so that, we have three main sects in Jainism that are all represented here in one roof, under one roof, which is different from how it is done, back in India. So we have the Shwetambar, we have the Tikambar, and we have the Stanakwasi. These three sects all represented in the same temple facility, and we all operate as one united view as Jains. So a lot of these were done so that we can while we're getting ready for executing the project, we're also getting ready to operate the project on day one. And this year is the first full year of the temple being in a standalone mode, because we just inaugurated in June of last year. So this is the first year that we are now going to start running it as a full-fledged facility. So there are a lot of challenges and a lot of unknowns that thankfully we have prepared some planning and answers for in the last several years. We've done this through all the different teams that we have prepared.
Wow. That's, again, just congratulations, huge feat, and the power of the community coming together, right? And it looks like you had all the skill sets required within the set of volunteers you had. So I think that was probably a great situation as well. Having gone through this, Sandeep, and I'm sure you also drew inspiration from other similar monuments that have been built in the US and modeled it. But for someone who's looking to do this for their own community, not necessarily Jain, or just stand up any complex monument kind of a project, what advice would you give them based on what you've learned?
I would. There's several things. There's several good lessons learned from the project that we have undertaken so far. And again, your objective of your project is first and foremost. For instance, the objective for us was to build a Jain Center, not just a Jain temple, which is paramount, of course, but also have a facility which is a gathering point, has the necessary space and facilities to support other community building activities, such as Sunday school, such as a place for people to get together and have lunches or meals together, and things such as health fairs or youth activities or women's group or seniors group. And we do all of those now, and we have our own space now. So it really, the Jain Center concept is what we are striving for. More importantly, given the fact that the next generation of our future generations, they are going to be connected more at the spiritual level, of course, religious too, but it will be more and more important for us to keep them connected to their root and provide them a space where they know they can come in and meet people who are like-minded, and it's their spiritual home, and things of that nature. So to anybody who's pursuing similar projects, from an execution perspective, I would say that make sure that the project you're endeavoring has a realistic financial and budget overlay with it, and once you're ready to move forward and are proceeding with construction, it might sound more expensive up front, but try to minimize the number of different moving parts or different moving contractors that you end up bringing. It would be beneficial to bring one or two solid general contractors and have them manage a lot of the underlying. Because when you're doing a construction to the level that we did, from land development all the way to the finished product, there were a lot of things that we learned along the way. Being ready financially for it so that your project has a full lifeline in terms of being able to pay your costs across the timeline is very important. So that would be my two main suggestions. And of course, feel free to reach out to me if anybody wants to discuss more final level details on that.
Thank you for offering that, Sandeep. I'm sure some out there who are considering it would appreciate it. And as you were talking about this, almost made me think of, coming from a tech background myself, which is for any new product launch, you always start with a use case, right? Like, what are you trying to do? What's your purpose? So I love that you outlined that. And of course, that's also a beautiful use case and vision you have for the Jain Center as well. So thank you for sharing that. All right. So, Sandeep, we are going to lighten it up a little bit, and I'm going to put you through a rapid fire round. So, let's see how we do. Are you ready for it?
Oh boy. Okay.
All right. I'll try to be nice to you. All right. So, here we go. Question number one: a hobby people would be surprised to learn you have.
Um, Karaoke singing?
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I am surprised to hear that. Okay.
Preferably without audience, but that's okay.
We're going to have to take you up on that one. A mantra or phrase you often return to.
There's a few come to my mind, but the first one that I remember that I had on my desk ever since I was in high school was 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration. That's what you need for success.
Interesting. You've definitely shown that through the building of the temple. So that makes sense. A Jain principle that secretly makes you a better engineer or problem solver.
Oh, I think it's gonna have to be multiplicity of view or anekantvad, where your view is a view, not the
Uh-huh.
only view. And again, multiple views have their own validity, and that's really to bring the best output from that standpoint.
That's beautiful. Um, if the Jain Center had a product roadmap, what's the one feature you'd ship next?
Well, actually, we do have a product roadmap, matter of fact.
Okay, not surprised.
And the first one and comes out immediately out of my head is a kitchen and a full-blown kitchen, that is, and a multi-purpose dining hall that is going to be part of where we're going next with the Jain Center. That's going to be our phase 2 of construction.
Very cool. Can't
And
wait.
as I always say, people who eat together stay together.
Uh-huh.
So that's really the goal, is to really foster that. And we do it today, but we have limitations, and so
Mhm.
that will be the next item that we're next target we're going to be putting in.
Like it. Can't wait to see that. Um, a movie you can quote without thinking.
It has to be Andaz Apna Apna.
I remember that. um, all right. And so I think this last one is my favorite question and very important, Sandeep, which is who was actually the smarter one back in college, you or me? And remember, this is being recorded.
Well, undoubtedly you, Vinny.
Of course. Okay. Thank you. I humbly accept and agree with your answers. So, by
Only
the
till
way,
college, and then it changed.
that's such a typical Sandeep answer, but I'll give it
Thank
to you. You built a temple. So, thank you for indulging me. Right. Well, that was fun. We'll wrap it up now, Sandeep. And so maybe as parting thoughts, given your strong leadership track, both in tech as well as in the Jain community, what is the one thing you wish our listeners would take away from your experiences?
I would say that, yes, while follow your heart and follow your passion is, what we have heard a lot of times, the question is, how do you try to do it? And it's very individual, very different for every individual.
Mhm.
For me, it was a deeply emotional and spiritual connection that I've achieved through my endeavors. My message to folks would be that, you got to do what you have to do for your day-to-day life. But, take some time out on a weekend or, other times, and think about how you would want to look back at your time from 10 years ago.
Mm.
And then think, if I knew this back then, I would have done this. Well, then you're here now. How would you project your next 10 years? Knowing that sort of feeling, that sort of objective. And I think you'll find some answers that are very personal, meets your objectives. And there are things that you may have considered doing, but you're just on the sidelines for that. Take a shot,
Mhm.
you know, give it a try, because you never know until you do it.
Love it. And it's funny. I recently saw this somewhere on social media. It said, your today is the result of your decisions over the last 10 years or 10 years ago, possibly. And today you're making a decision for the next 10 years.
Exactly.
Exactly what you said, right? Which is if there's a desire to start anything, jump in, give it a shot. There's no better time to do it. So love that message. Thank you. So yeah, to wrap it up, Sandeep, just as I hear you talk about this temple, right? It's more than just a spiritual destination, spiritual home for Jains, right? If you think about, we're in Washington, D.C., where there are so many monuments and institutions that represent the rich history of Washington, D.C. I feel like this temple now just adds yet another chapter to that list of monuments. And it really speaks to the evolving, diverse cultural fabric of Washington, D.C. So, with that, I do want to let our listeners know that the Jain Temple is open for any visitors, right? It's not just Jains. And for
Correct.
more information, there's I'll link the website in the show notes. So please be sure to check it out to make the most out of your visit. And for those who are familiar, this is in Beltsville, Maryland. It's across the street from the BAPS Swaminarayan Temple, and it's maybe about 20 minutes from the Shiva Vishnu Temple. So next time you're in the area, highly encourage you to plan a visit to the Jain Center. So with that, Sandeep, thank you again so much for joining us, for sharing all your learnings, your thoughts, and indulging me in some fun games. So appreciate that. Thank you again for your time.
Always a pleasure, and thank you for having me. Jai Jinendra.
Jai Jinendra.